I'm doing fine. It's a very busy end of the year. We are right now in the middle of Berlin. We are shooting a couple of videos for ESP guitars at the showroom. We have two more music videos to be shot this weekend, and then we are going to prepare all the tours for 2025. So busy days ahead, but at the same time, if you love what you're doing, there's
Mm,
nothing wrong about that. So it's
yeah.
really going to be an exciting time next year. A lot of
Yeah.
traveling.
Yeah, excellent. I'm talking ESP. You've got a signature guitar with ESP, right?
It's a custom
Custom, sorry. Yeah,
prototype.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There we go. Yeah, yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah, they built me one guitar some time ago that took a very, very long time. But I love the instrument. I'm playing that one on every show. So it's probably 200, 250 shows in right now
Mm.
and never goes out of tune. It's a brilliant instrument. And I'm, aside the look, of course, there are always different tastes, but when it comes to playing, there's nothing I would change. So it was really fantastic working with the team now there in Japan and also the US office,
Mm.
making this happen. So really, really cool. Great
Yeah,
instrument.
that's cool. What kind of input do you have? Like, were you saying, I want these pickups and this feel? Like, what was the kind of process getting it together?
I had the shape already.
Hmm.
So I'm playing this particular shape since 2003, I think. I worked with a different company back then,
Mm.
but I went out of business. It was a small custom shop from Poland. Great guitars, but since they are not there anymore, it was just sad because I needed a new guitar.
Mm.
So in the very end, I ended up working with ESP after checking out all the different bigger and smaller brands. Because to be honest, there are many, many manufacturers out there who build fantastic guitars, big names, small names,
Mm.
but you have to be happy as a player with the guitar. And sometimes it's also the people behind the company that makes a big difference. And therefore, it was, if you feel welcome, of course, it's a pleasure working with the people. And when we started to work on this custom guitar, of course, if you are working with a company and builders that have experience of 30 or 40 years, you open your ears and listen to their advice. When it comes to especially the construction of the different wood layers, I don't have experience with that. I'm a player, I'm the consumer, I'm on stage and in the studio with the instrument, but their experience was just gold. It's just a very balanced and respectful work together with the team from ESP and also with my ideas as a player and also my demands because every player is different. Um, for example, I needed scalloped frets. I wanted to use that for a long time
Mm.
for all the legato and tapping parts we're working with in solo sections or in um, we call it like lead bridge parts with a lot of tapping. And it's just nice to see that this worked out because the tone cuts through way better than without the scallop thread. So it's always a working together in a team. Like we or me as a musician and they as a company. Very cool. And I even got the chance to visit the factory in the US, but also in Japan and Tokyo, and that was like Christmas.
Yeah, yeah,
Brilliant.
nice. Yeah, excellent. We last spoke back when the Valediction came out, but now obviously Obscura's back with a seventh studio album. Yeah, a Sonication out 7th of Feb next year. What is a Sonication? What's the kind of theme there?
Mm, Sonication is the second album out of a trilogy. We
Mm.
started with A Valediction. That one was just speaking in colors, that was the bronze one. A Sonication is the silver album, and the next one will be the golden one. When it comes to lyrics and the meaning behind it, A Valediction was the first album after we finished a very, very long row of four albums that have been connected. So
Mm.
it had more the vibe of being a, let's call it like a farewell album to the old times. Now, a Sonication, I would see it as the position of being like the reflective record, if that makes sense. It's a little bit more dismantled from being full of information. It has a different approach when it comes to songwriting and also production than the previous records. It has more room to breathe. It's a little bit more, I would call it balanced. Balanced. It's more song oriented. It's not guitar focused. It's song oriented, and that comes from a guitarist.
Mm.
So that's definitely um, quite a difference. And when you listen to the album, I would see some mm, kind of melancholic, maybe even introverted vibe and
Mhm.
pace that comes across. And this is something new. I don't see any song where we had something similar like this before. It's very nice new ground we figured. But at the same time, of course, we are a death metal band. Will always stay a death metal band. So it's a thin line in between um, getting out of your comfort zone, but at the same time, you want to keep your roots. So probably one first world issue of the established death metal bands out there.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Obscura's had a few lineup changes, but you've had a pretty significant one in the last sort of year or so, right? Does that affect your writing? Like, are you thinking about the musicians who are going to be playing it when you're writing? Like, how does that kind of work?
The, the musician I always have in mind when I'm writing is actually the drummer,
Okay.
because the drummer changes so much when it comes to groove, how to interpret riffs and the arrangements. I always thought this is the biggest change. For example, I love all the albums Chuck Schuldiner and Death put out,
Mhm.
but while the music and the riffs always have been yeah in a certain direction, in a certain style, when they changed drummers from, let's say, Jean Reiner to Gene Hoglan, that made a big difference in sound. The songs and the value remained the same, but the vibe changed a little bit in the groove, but for the better. And in this case, yes, we have a lot of lineup changes and all over the years, but have also think about it. There are not many bands out there with that touring schedule as we have.
Well, yeah.
We, if you just lean back, we have 7 albums right now, including the new one. We are touring probably 150, 200 shows per album, and per year between 80 to 100, 120 shows next year. That's a lifestyle not everybody likes. And if you start to, I don't know, get a family, or if you think about having a more stable life instead of traveling for one show where you play like 45 or an hour somewhere in Mexico or in I don't know. We've been in Australia recently
Mm.
for 2 shows, and with all the jet lag and everything, sometimes you question yourself. But for me, I made the decision. This is exactly what I want to do, and if someone else rather steps away, I respect that.
Mm.
It's the true honesty, because it's not made for everyone, and
Yeah.
maybe not for the entire life. It's a certain episode in your life, maybe, but it's totally cool. I don't
Mm.
have a problem with that. It's just about communication, you know.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's cool. I can clearly hear fretless bass in Everfall and Beyond the Seventh Sun as well. Like, I know Linus played a fretless, but is Robin playing a fretless throughout? Like, is it Robin on the recording? Like, is that?
Yes. So
Yeah.
we work with Fretless bass since I think the first time on a record we had Jeroen, Paul Hessling on Cosmogenesis, and we kept this style because it's like a nice contrast to the very accurate and precise rhythm guitars. So you have the fretless bass, which is a little bit more close to the right note, and also when it comes to the pitch, it's a little bit more out of the box. It's really cool. I love that sound, and it it has sort of significance for our band sound as well, and also how we work with the fretless bass. Usually in metal scene, the bass is a little bit there to fill up frequencies at times and play root notes, but sometimes the bass takes over the lead position while the rhythm guitars in Obscura are more rhythmic and more percussive than, for example, the bass when it takes over some leads. That opens much more freedom when it comes to highlight each musician in a certain state. And talking about the new record, this was exactly what I had in mind. Bringing back, oh, that sounds a little bit bad. Um, the idea was to highlight every instrument and every musician in a certain way. It's not a straight guitar fixed or focused album. It's more song oriented. And within a song, for me, a song is still storytelling. I have to highlight and give every musician or every part a certain room to breath. if it is the bass, if it's the vocal production, if it's the guitar, the acoustic guitar, it doesn't matter, but it's just interesting to somehow highlight everybody who is involved, not only one guitar. So that's my approach.
Yeah, I think it works. It sounds cool. The prolonging, it's like a little 2 and a bit minute song. What makes you decide, okay, yep, that song's done, no more riffs for that song? Like, makes you kind of decide when it's done, you know?
That's just a gut feeling,
Mm,
to be honest. Sometimes you cannot plan everything in your life, and so it is with songwriting and with the prolonging. It's quite a good name for the shortest song on the record,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
I think the song is just 2 minutes long, and I had the feeling everything was said that needs to be said. And sometimes people talk a lot, but they don't say anything. And with that song, we had 2 minutes. We had a strong chorus. It's very, very fast. It's, I think, 260 BPM
Mm,
long. And the solo section just they have been added and built up on each other. It was done when it was done.
mm.
So songwriting always is a mixture of in between having a plan, having a gut feeling, and some voodoo.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. I read that you wrote and recorded this album while touring for the last album. Is that right?
Parts of it.
Yeah,
Parts
yeah.
of it. So you have to divide in between collecting a lot of ideas
Mm,
and sitting down, woodshed, and work on everything like completely focused. When we are on tour, it's basically a circus around you.
mm, mm.
Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. And you can use the time to collect ideas, especially riffs. Sometimes a couple of words, sometimes lines. I always have a sketchbook with me, writing down a couple of things. Um, there's always a laptop around where you can leave ideas on in Guitar Pro format, for example, any tabs. And the sound checks are always a good time to just use the time to, well, come up with a couple of ideas or show it to the other guys. So on tours, we collected a lot of ideas, and during the time at home, I started to assemble everything. So yes, on tour, but written and worked out in detail that happened in the studio at home.
Yeah, okay. Do you think the crowd influences your writing? Like, Obscura is what, 22 years now or something? Like, when you're playing live, especially touring, you must say, oh, the crowd reacts well to this sort of thing that we're doing. Like, does that sort of affect what you do the next time around, you know?
At times, yes. So we figured it sometimes is a surprise. There are some songs we thought that might be work super well in a live setting, and then people didn't react. And sometimes there were songs we just put into the set list out of the sake of it because we wanted to keep some change, not always repeating yourself, playing the same 20 songs. And it turned out to be a banger. So you never know how it works, but in what comes with experience over all the years, that is the fact that the super fast songs are really hard to translate in a live setting. So sometimes the more detailed music you put out and the more counterpoint sections you have in your songs, it's really hard to maintain in a live setting. So in if you have a studio environment where everything's perfect, it's super fine. But if you're touring the world and if you fly into shows where you sometimes have to rely on gear or you know rental equipment, it's really hard to keep up that 100% when you're just struggling to go through the set. So
Mm,
it's a mixture. It's a mixture. So I would to come back to a question, yes, crowd reactions definitely are part of writing. On the other hand, I'm not writing music to be performed live only. So sometimes we have two or three songs we could perform in a live setting, but we don't because we feel okay, there are so many layers, half of the song um, need to be played by a backing track or something, and I don't rely on that.
yeah.
So it's you have to keep things in balance somehow. I'm happy with good reactions live, but at the same time, all crowds are different. If you play in South America, people go crazy and sing along to even guitar solos. If you play in Scandinavia, people are a little bit more laid back and listen. and that reaction is completely different. So sometimes you play in front of a crowd that is more enjoying and listening and be focused instead of a punk rock, heavy metal, chaos and revolutionary scenario. So
Yeah.
everything counts.
Mhm. The production's cool. Like in Stardust, it seems like there's some kind of hard pan guitars and things. That's really cool. Did you do anything different, like when mastering production this time around?
Yes, we still work with the same producer. So
Mhm.
we went back to Gothenburg, Sweden, Studio Fredman, and worked with Fredrik Nordström.
Mhm.
So I would say the core of the sound has been the same, but the approach shifted a little bit. So for the new album, the intention was to build like a wall of sound with a lot of different layers. Instead of two rhythm guitars, one left, one right, I recorded four. So everything got doubled up and sometimes even quadrupled up. The idea was to not only think left and right in the stereo panorama, but also in the depth and field. So if you listen to the album with proper headphones and just follow one of the instruments for the entire album, for example, only follow the bass or only follow the guitar for the entire album front to end, you will discover a couple of new things every time you listen to the album. And this is really cool. It's one of those records you have to spin a couple of times to figure out all the details. It's not that all the lines are on a silver tablet. It's more an album that is more enjoyable the more often you listen to it. And that's a different approach than the previous one, which was all faders to 11, everything full blown.
Mhm. Yeah.
All solos from front to end. So slightly different, but the core is still the same.
Hmm. Yeah. It's the Silver Linings music video. Where are you guys playing? That looks like some kind of like a closed down bar or something. Like, what is that space? That looks cool.
That was actually a castle, a proper castle
Yeah,
in
wow.
between Germany and Poland on the Polish side.
Hmm.
And I saw that this particular venue in a couple of different music videos of other bands,
Hmm.
and I just fell in love with it. So I reached out to the production company and asked if we can film there, and they made it happen, and I'm very grateful for that. It's quite a
Yeah.
contrast to what we did in the past and also what else happens in the music video, but that was on purpose because I'm always thinking in colors when you think of the bronze, the silver, and the golden albums. The silver is now Sonication. You have the band playing in like a bronze setup. So it's basically a visual link to the previous album, and everything on the storyline is more in the silver look. It's
Hmm.
part of the here and now of the Sonication record. So that, again, there are Easter eggs everywhere. I try to work with links and rely from one album to the other.
Yeah, that's cool, man. So Thalcandra, your other band, you had your first UK headlining tour this year, is that right? With Thalcandra?
Yes, we
Yeah.
did a little stunt with three shows in the UK. In
Hmm.
where did we play? In Scotland, London, and Bristol, I think. No,
Okay.
Manchester. My bad. Sorry.
Mhm.
So many shows in the UK recently.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Uh,
Ridiculous.
no, that's cool. So, did you catch any bands over there, like when you going to different shows, that kind of thing?
In when we play there,
Yeah, yeah.
we always play in on different festivals, and there's always a band here or there
Mm.
that stays in your head. And for example, in Scotland, we played on a festival with a lot of bands, but I had a little car crash, so I had to deal with that first.
Oh, wow. Jeez, what
Nothing
happened?
bad, nothing bad, but well, there was no time to see any other bands because you had to deal with that stuff.
Yeah, fair enough.
And it's really hard to understand Scottish people. I thought I
Yeah.
speak English, but I figured I didn't.
Yeah, it's a pretty thick accent for sure. Yeah.
Nice people, very,
Yeah, yeah,
very
yeah.
genuine,
Mm.
but hard to understand.
Yeah,
But
fair
I've
enough.
seen Americans coming over and having the same issue, so I'm fine.
Yeah. So Live Demise just came out December 6th as well, yeah, the Thalcandra album. That's cool. How'd that come together? Like that must have been fun putting together a live release.
That was fun because the show we recorded back then is I think a decade ago that happened.
Hmm.
The initial release for that live album was planned for the 20-year anniversary of the band, but during all the COVID bullshit,
Mm,
we couldn't get a plant to press all the vinyl. So that got shifted and delayed again and again and again, and now finally we can make it happen. So it's a very, very small release. I think there are only 300 copies of the vinyl pressed in total, not only one edition, it's everything we do. So it's more a release for the very close friends, the family, and the friends. So it's a very small thing, but I'm very happy that a record label like Napalm Record is putting all the effort in to make it happen.
mm.
Every other company probably would have said, "Nah, we don't make any profit with that. Let's skip that. You can do it on your own." But they didn't, and I'm very grateful for that. So, in the wake of that record, it's a little bit of a bow down to the first phase of the band because Tandra had 3 albums recorded, the first 3, with one particular lineup, and then some guys left for job reasons to other cities,
Mm,
and we had a new lineup, and we also changed the cover artwork and the producer and something like this, a little bit similar to Obscura here.
mm,
So this live album was a little bit to underline the roots where we came from,
mm.
and by accident we had the recordings of the original lineup back then. So it was really, really a aligning of stars because the drummer at the time, he was living in the Netherlands and we barely played shows. And here we had a hometown show in front of a lot of family and friends that has been recorded properly, even at that time, with the original lineup. So that was the reason we wanted to put it out. Perhaps at some point we can release a live album of the new lineup
Mm.
that covers then all the 5 records, or maybe then 6 albums that are out there. So that the door is still open. It's
Yeah.
it's again, it's a fun release, more more like a piece of time for us.
Mm. That's cool. So what's next for Thalcandra? You just said you mentioned maybe another album. Where's that up to, mate?
Well, for Tulkandra, we are still picking up the diamonds to do some tours. So
Mm,
we are going to Mexico in March. We are going to play an Asian tour in summer, and then it's definitely time to work on a new album.
mm,
So a lot of things ahead, and the band has a completely different setting than Obscura. Obscura is the band I make a living off, and Tulkandra is a band of friends that just plays music and is very, very picky when it comes to live concerts because the other 3 guys, they have regular jobs.
mm,
So we loved what we are doing, but we have to be picky and selective when it comes to live shows, and therefore we rather do something special like Mexico or the small UK run or Asia in summer instead of, I don't know, playing the same touring circles as all other bands again and again. So it should be a special thing to see the band live
yeah.
because it's rare.
Yeah, that's cool. So Obscura is playing a lot of shows coming up. Yeah, like I think I read that you're making your way back down to us maybe next year. Yeah.
We are still working on that.
Yeah.
The idea is to, because the travel, to be honest, are absolutely brutal to Australia. We are on the other side of the planet.
Mm,
So what we are trying to do is playing a full tour, not only 1 or 2 shows. We did that in 2023. We've been invited to an excellent festival, and we played a sideshow. That was cool, and we figured the feedback was very positive, and of course we felt welcome this time, and also the first time we played Down Under.
mm,
But when you are traveling that far, you want to play more than one show. So my aim is playing 7 to 10 shows, and maybe even visit your neighbors over there in New Zealand.
yeah.
Maybe stay just for some vacation a little bit longer. So that would be my idea to come down. I would love to be back. We send a ton of vinyl to Australia with every album. So there are definitely a lot of fans out there who would love to see the band.
Mm.
And since we are loving traveling, let's make that happen.
Oh, good to hear, man. Cool. All right. Well, look, our Sonication comes out 7th of Feb, everyone. The links are below. Steffen, thanks
Mm.
heaps for your time, man. Killer album. It's good stuff, man. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking to you, and well,
Yeah.
see you down under.